Hello and welcome to the Open College podcast series. My name is Oxana and I'm the host of this podcast. On this podcast, Mary is back talking about work and home life balance. Many of us struggle with this, so Mary has come up with some tips on how to balance this better for us all. So this is what she had to say.
Really good to be back and doing another podcast on something that's, I think it's extremely important and I suppose very relevant to what's going on at the moment with the pandemic, you know, and everybody having to, well, most people having to work from home, doing remote working and trying to get that work-life balance sorted out. So it's a very, very relevant topic to sort of what's going on at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Look, Oxana, I've spoken to many people over the years and many employers actually about this topic, and each and every one of them agree that, you know, managing everything that you have to manage as an adult is extremely difficult, you know.
Oh yeah, especially from someone who's only started adulting there in the last kind of year or two properly. It's just,
yeah,
it's very difficult. But I find, you know what I find though? I find that what you call it? So before, obviously, like it was just manic. People's life was absolutely manic. And then with the pandemic, it's like this great reset that, like, I find for me anyway, work-life balance hasn't been better.
Yeah.
Like, it's great now.
Yeah, and that's wonderful to hear that, Oxana. It really is. And there is a percentage of people that's like yourself, you know, that you know, I totally agree with you. Before the shutdown, before the pandemic, I could really feel this heaviness of busyness amongst people, just busyness of everything. You know, you would get up in the morning so early, you'd be on the M50 for an hour or 2 hours before you get to work. You know, I was walking along the streets, so it's just, you know, I was seeing people walking and very stressed looking, just, you know, I could just feel this heaviness.
Oh yeah, it was a real rat race situation.
Yeah, it really was. And, you know, it was a rat race, but this apparently was very normal to people.
Oh yeah.
This was the only way this was normal in order to sort of reach goals and, you know, reach where you want to be, without realizing that's actually completely abnormal.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, exactly. It's just, yeah, we've convinced ourselves that this is what you do and it's fine and just get on with it, but it's not.
Yeah. You're like, you know, as the old saying, like you're like a wee hamster going around a wheel and you're never really getting anywhere, only to exhaustion and breaking point, you know.
But that's it.
So, and you know, I've always said that work is part of your life. Okay, life is not part of your work. It shouldn't be the other way around. So work is part of your life. So you should, the way I look at it anyway, as a therapist, as a career advisor, as anybody, you know, working or, you know, trying to balance their lives, you should really prioritize as much as you can your own personal lives. Okay, you know, you can still be dedicated to, and you know, you can still be very happy in your job, you can still work very hard, but you know, we need time to reflect, we need time to rest. And you know, if we consider how maybe combining some very simple and effective tips and solutions, you know, it can really benefit your whole life in general. Okay, so if we can do that, then this will have a very positive knock-on effect then in your personal and professional lives, you know. So that's really what we should be striving for here. So yeah, and you know what you said, Oxana, there's lots of people that have actually found that magic potion for themselves and, you know, have a nice balance of everything now, you know, because I know with yourself, Oxana, you were up so early in the morning and you were you were in the car for what, 2.5 hours or something crazy like that?
No, look, to be fair, I live about maybe an hour and a half away, and that's like 2 hours is like peak traffic for me to commute to work. On a good day, it's an hour away, so like you just fly along down the motorway, which is not that bad. But obviously I live in the Midlands, so I have to go down the M7, which is like one of the it is the M7, isn't it? Like the busiest motorway. So it was absolutely crazy. I'm kind of hoping now though, with COVID kind of, as awful as it is obviously, but with COVID kind of showing people the alternative way of, you know, being able to work from home and all these kind of things, that is going to continue that way. Now, I know it's not going to be possible for a lot of professions because, you know, nurses and doctors and healthcare assistants, childcare
Hmm.
workers, they're all still going to have to go in.
Yeah,
But the people like us who are in an office or whatever it is, I hope it just kind of stays in this kind of vein now.
yeah, and yeah, because the option at the moment anyway is, you know, remote working for office workers as long as we can, I suppose.
Yeah.
And you know, at the beginning, what I found, you know, I enjoyed, you know, not having to get up early as early, you know, and getting in
Yeah.
that car and off on the M50 and stuff like that with more time, basically just more time. It's a gift, you
Yeah.
know, and you can do at that time what you like, you know, get a bit of exercise in, you know, spend more time with, you know, my son, you know, your child, and you know, so it was great to have a bit of control back as to what you wanted to do with that time, you know.
Hmm. Yes,
Um,
definitely.
but then, you know, as time goes on, and you know, again, this is just me. Um, I missed the camaraderie, you know, the bit of crack in the office, the social part of it,
Yes.
and being around people and getting a laugh and everything. That's what I really miss now. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping when the restrictions are lifted, so you know, to kind of have a balance there, you know, work from home and then, you know, go in 1 or 2 days a week or something like that. I think that would be
Yeah, have it optional. Yeah.
have an option,
Like
you know.
have what are they called? Are they called hot desks? Is that what it is?
Yes.
That nobody has like an assigned seat, but there's like a couple of hot desks in the office and whoever is in obviously can use it and then you leave and that kind of thing.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. They're doing a lot of that. And actually, I was reading. I don't know where I was reading it, but it was saying about any buildings that's not being used in rural Ireland, like, you know, buildings that's kind of
Yeah.
sitting there, maybe, you know, even in small towns it's not being used anymore. They're
Hmm.
going to change them into sort of those kind of hubs
Oh, that's
where,
very
you know,
good.
people working in the country, people working in quieter areas can go to these hubs,
Hmm.
you know, where they can work, you know, they can get out of the house and everything. So you can see how everything is really changing and adapting very well,
Mm.
uh, more to people's needs now.
Yeah, exactly. And it's working, like you said, it's working really well. So I don't see why it can't continue as it is,
Well, that's
to be
it.
fair.
That's it. And I mean, yeah, so work-life balance. So what is it like? What do we have to manage? Okay, so there's a load of different things. So first of all, you know, we have to manage, you know, the family is a big one, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, so you might have children, you might not. Um, you know, if you don't have children, you know, you might have pets, as I know you have. That's your family, Oksana.
Oh yeah, that's my babies. Earlier when you were saying, "Oh, you know, with your kids," and then you change it really quick to something else, I was like, "It's because she knows my kids are
I know.
furry."
I can't leave that out, you see. But there's so many people that have pets as family, you know, and that's a full-time job as well. You have to care for them, you have to look after them, you have to feed them, you have to say, you know,
Yeah.
that's you know, so you have to find time for that. If you have children, then, you know, there's school, there's homework, there's activities, you know, and then you're trying to spend time with them on their own as well, you know, so that so you get that special time with them on their own. And then there's families that you have the extended families then where, you know, there's people that have to look after a family member that might not be well, you know, elderly parents and things like that. So even when I'm saying that, it sounds like a huge amount, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. It's a lot to squeeze into a day.
It's a lot. So then after that, you have work.
Yeah.
So if you are working, you know, you're trying to organize everything that goes with that. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Schedule things, sorting out your diary, and you know, all the busyness that goes with work, and then, you know, you're trying to manage your hobbies and interests, which you cannot forget about, by the way. And this unfortunately, hobbies and interests goes way to the very bottom of priorities whenever you have so many other things to manage, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so hobbies and interests, like what you know, what do you enjoy doing, and you know, the little things that you're interested in. They kind of they do be pushed down to the bottom, and it's a thing that I know I keep saying it, but it's a thing that I always try to remind my classes about. It's like, what do you enjoy doing? when is the last time you did it? And, you know, you just get all these confused faces, and then, you know, it's just telling me, okay, so they've just forgotten about them, basically, you know. And it's really important. It's like having your own time. It's about doing the stuff that you enjoy. It's about getting away and reflecting, you know, having a bit of privacy and everything, because you will not work at your highest potential if you do not take breaks, if you don't do what you enjoy, and if you don't reflect. It's a fact, do you know? So you're trying to manage that, and then there's your health. So you're trying to exercise, you know, you're trying to watch your diet, and you know you're trying to manage your physical and your emotional needs, you know. So my goodness, isn't that a lot? That's a lot, Oksana, you know, when you think about it.
It does, but I do we were just said there a few minutes ago, that people just took it for granted that that's how life is. And you know what, I find that like a busy lifestyle is nearly glamorized now. Like
Yes.
never switching off from work and working late hours it's like, oh well, look at them, like I should strive to be that, but I don't agree. Like coming in early and working to the late hours at night is not something to be proud of. Like you're going to burn yourself out, and at the end of the day, like what's it all for, you know?
Well,
everybody's going to retire anyway, so your job's going to be forgotten.
Well, exactly, you know, and this mentality really needs to be gotten rid of, you know. I suppose maybe it started with, I know, bigger companies just wanting you to just work as hard, you know, as possible. I mean, it's for their gain, really. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
but
yeah, of course.
It's gotten into people's psyche that, oh no, I have to stay into 7 o'clock tonight. I have to stay into 8 o'clock. Oh, and it's almost like, oh, look at me, I'm doing all this work. God, I'm doing, you know, great work. And then, as you said, somebody's listening to this and they're going, oh, geez, maybe I should be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I should be, you know, staying in late and, you know, coming in earlier and doing work at the weekends and everything. Maybe I should be doing this to look like I'm working really hard and to impress the boss and everything.
Yeah. And you always hear these stories of people who have started a job, say, and that sometimes there's like, they're working with obviously other people, and they get up and they leave at their time, and they're nearly looked at as if they have like 10 heads, as if like, what, you're not doing extra time? And you're kind of nearly like guilted into submission of working the extra hours.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, long term, you know, that might work in the short term, working all these hard hours and working over, but that will gradually creep up on that person.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they'll end up, the body will have a way of telling that person something's not right. They'll get sick. Yeah. They'll get very run down. They'll, in the long run, it won't benefit them at all.
Yeah.
You know,
and look, I don't think we're being unrealistic either, though. Like, I do agree that sometimes it might be necessary, depending on the job you do, which is fine. But I think the key thing is just not to make it a constant thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we all have to work overtime sometimes. Do you know what I mean? We all have to put the extra effort to get a job done sometimes, but not all the time. It's not.
Exactly.
It's not realistic. It's not how we've evolved to live. You know, you will definitely have something will happen if you carry on just constantly like that. It's guaranteed, you know. Right. So I came across an interesting report from Leia Healthcare.
Oh, very good.
One of our Irish private medical healthcare companies, and they did a sort of a bit of research on how employees are getting on working from home, you know, remote working. And there's a few interesting findings I found there. So what they said, that 44% of employees are working longer hours, okay, at home compared to the office. Now, I was actually taken aback by this. I was like, what? You know, because automatically you would think people have more control over what they do at home, so they're going to be I'm going to stop. But no, it's the feeling of sort of always being on, because they're not getting away from their office as such, because it's in the house. So it's a feeling of sort of always being on and always sort of not getting away from their work, which is contributing to them staying on longer hours. Almost 2/3 of employees feel pressure, to stay connected after normal working hours. And this resulted in an average 22 hours overtime each month over the past year. It's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, that's like nearly 3 days? No,
yeah,
thanks.
I mean that's
Yeah.
that's huge. That's huge. If you think of that in terms of annual leave, you're missing out the equivalent of 3 days annual leave there.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I was really taken aback. And then what's also happening is from this report is a lot of employees are not taking time off when they're sick, and then this contributes to higher stress levels.
Yeah.
Now, this is so you start to get sick when you're overworked. Do you know what I mean? Or you might catch a bug, or you might get the flu, or God forbid the COVID. But these things can't be helped. So there's that, and then there's if you're overworked, you're going to be catching things more easily anyway. But what happens is, what's coming first? What priorities coming first? Work. You start to think, oh no, I have that meeting at 2 o'clock, I can't cancel. Oh no, I have that interview to do at 10 o'clock in the morning, I can't cancel that. Well, really, you can. These things can be rescheduled. All of these things can be rescheduled. And I mean, a way to think about that is like, right, what consequences, what's the worst that can happen now if I cancel this call, if I cancel this meeting? Nothing really bad is going to happen. You can reschedule. It's not the end of the world. You really must, if you're sick, take time off work to get better. And it really is as simple as that. When you're at home, when you're rested, when you get well, you're going to come back with a much better frame of mind, much more motivated, much more energy, rather than just keep sledging on and on and on, and just feel a lot worse in yourself, and not as productive at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and 43% of remote workers are experiencing frequent stress. And then there's worrying signs of deteriorating morale as well, because there's less social interaction, you see. And then it's also very hard to self-motivate. Do you know, when you're at home, I find this sometimes now myself. I find it hard some days to get motivated, and it would be very, very easy if I was in the office to drive in and talk to everybody and have a bit of crack, and just get that bit of energy going, and then you'd feel motivated again by even just that simple thing of talking and having a bit of crack with your workers, with your colleagues.
Yeah, I agree.
So the motivation side is a bit down when you're constantly working from home the whole time, and having that feeling of to always be on as well. Half of workers feel like, so this is another important point. So one of the key things for having work-life balance is to be happy at your job, right? Because if you're not happy at your job, you're going to be a lot more stressed, you're going to be a lot more anxious, and therefore you're going to be taking a lot more home with you. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot less work-life balance there.
Oh, I couldn't agree with that more. Definitely.
So from the employees that they did their research with, half of them feel stuck in their job, and they really want to apply for work, but because of the way there's lack of opportunities now because of the pandemic. Job searching at the minute is very, very difficult. So they're kind of putting that off because there's lack of opportunities, and they're waiting to see what happens after the pandemic. The organizations, businesses, there'll be more sort of opening up again, and there'll be much more opportunities for people. But you can imagine for the half of those workers that they did the research with, that's terrible on them. I mean, they're getting up every morning, as well as all the pressure from the pandemic and COVID. They're waking up every morning and they're not even enjoying their job, and they're stuck with this for most of the day, and things like that. That's a very difficult one.
No, it's not fun, especially the majority of us work 8 hours a day. So that's your day spent with your coworkers in an environment that you need to look. You don't need to, like, I know you're saying you need to enjoy it, and I agree with that, but you don't need to be like ecstatic about it. You just need to make sure that it's, I suppose, just maybe not as stressful. Now, having said that, all jobs come with their own stresses, but just so that it's not a constant thing.
Yes, exactly. As I say, if you're happy in your job most of the time, it's about having your expectations right as well.
Yeah,
Like there's
exactly.
no job that doesn't come without its pressures. Every single job you'll have its pressures, you'll have your off days, you'll have your certain amount of stress. Some days you'll be bringing more stress home with you than others and things like that. So it's about having expectations. But if you're happy in your job most of the time,
Yeah.
well then it's the job for you. If you're unhappy in your work most of the time, well, it's time to be even looking for a new role in the company or just moving from that company altogether, because it's really not worth it, Oksana, at all,
No, it's not. I fully agree. I've had experience like that before where the company I worked for was just, can't even describe how awful it
Yeah.
was. But yeah, no, I just left and I'm happy now. It's going well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and people sort of get themselves in a bit of a state because if you're in a job that you don't like, you're going to be suffering in a way.
Yeah.
It's because you're going to be you're almost, it makes people depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So then the person thinks, oh God, I'm depressed. This is terrible, and they kind of focus on it's all your fault, and you
Yeah.
just having all these, but the simple thing of just saying to yourself, right, I'm taking control of this. I'm very unhappy in my job and I'm going to look elsewhere. And, just taking that control and getting away out of that job and starting a new job and being very happy in it, you'll notice your mood totally lifts, So it's, and it's difficult to do sometimes, because when you are in that slump, it's very, very hard to get out of it, isn't it, Oksana? You just carry on with it and hope for the best and everything, but
Yeah.
it's very hard to get out of it, but it is worth taking the jump. Like, even if you are half of those workers, from the Leia research, if one of you is listening, even if there are lack of opportunities, do your research anyway. Just keep applying. You never know what may happen. Make sure that you're connected on LinkedIn as well. Connect with companies, and see what's available. You can apply online as well. You can apply through LinkedIn, which is very, very handy. I find LinkedIn a great tool,
Yeah.
So, don't just try not to sit and feel bad and dread every day. At least if you're up and you're doing a bit of research and you're connecting with other employers and things like that, at least you're doing something to take your mind off things.
Yeah. Is it worth saying maybe that now maybe it's just me, maybe I wouldn't have thought about this before, but is it worth saying that you need to also think about what's actually making you unhappy in your job? Is it the work itself? Are you just not happy being, say, a childcare worker? Is it the people around you and you really love working with kids? Do you know, it's all that kind of stuff. Is it the boss? Is it the colleagues? Like, see what it is, because the worst thing is you misjudge what's making you unhappy with work and you say, right, childcare is not for me, I'm leaving childcare, and you go off to do, I don't know, healthcare assisting or something. But you actually realize, no, I really, really liked working with the kids. It's just the people around me that created this toxic environment. So you should have just went to a different creche or something. Do you know, like all these kind of things.
Yeah. Oh, you're totally right. And I'm glad you brought up that point, Oksana, because, yeah, is it the work itself? Are you not being respected for the work that you're doing? Because having status at work is very, very important. Being told that you're actually good at something.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind, oh, you're brilliant or whatever. Tell your employee what exact skill they're good at.
Yeah.
If the employee, writes up an excellent report, take them and tell them, God, you've done that really well. I guarantee that employee will go out and they'll put 110% into the next report. If you're not getting any feedback like that from from your employer, it's not going to give you any sort of motivation or confidence, is it? Even, if you are enjoying it, that'll just put you off it. But it may be a case that you don't even enjoy the work in the first place. You find it very boring, monotonous. You need something more challenging. And then, of course, that's a huge point, Oksana, the people that you work with, And I find that a lot with the students, actually. Some of the courses we've had, they would do, say, for example, their healthcare course, and they would have to get a placement, somewhere to do their placement hours. And, they'd be very, very happy, and they were going all motivated, but then they might come across just one person is all it takes to put them completely off. And I have to come back saying, oh, gee, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It just, I'm working with this person, and, they told me I couldn't do this right, and, and things like that. All it takes is just one person just to put somebody off completely. And it's a shame, It really is a shame. So really, if you're working in a toxic environment, is what I call that, you need to get out of it and apply, somewhere else. Usually with the students, we would get another placement somewhere else, and they just fly. They really enjoy it, and they do well in their course. So if you are in a job and it's toxic like that, there really isn't. I mean, you could change roles, you could do something else, but the same people are going to be there. Do you know what I mean? So it's best that you get away from there altogether and get a similar role somewhere else, where you're going to be working for people that appreciate you, that respect you, that values teamwork. You all have the shared vision, which is really, really important at a work. Because with some companies, you're meant to have a shared vision, but one department doesn't know what the other department's doing, and that's a bit more better management needs to happen there. There needs to kind of be a bit of equality between all the different levels, higher up management and stuff like that. A bit of equality, a bit more communication there, a bit more, because research has shown that if employees have a shared vision, have really, really good teamwork, have an employer that is not afraid to tell them that they're doing well, that kind of raises their status, by saying, God, you're doing really well, this, you're doing this, and this, brilliant, and, discuss what the plans are for the future. Not this kind of, oh, we'll see, oh, you're doing brilliant, and we'll have to look at that next year. That's, oh, you're doing brilliant in this, and what exactly we'll look at next year is the following. As long as things are clear to employees, I mean, there's loads of research behind this, and every department knows what everybody's doing, and they all have this shared vision, they're all in it together. You're going to be much happier, and that's why some organizations work better than others, because some organizations don't put in this effort, and very, very simple things that you can do can really make the biggest difference, and I came across again another very interesting piece of research by Harvard University.
Oh, very good.
They did a study. They asked loads of different professionals about their work-life balance, and what they found was most of them came back with saying their jobs were highly demanding, unrealistic expectations most of the time, not just the odd time, but most of the time. They're exhausted the whole time trying to juggle everything. The work environment's chaotic. That's not knowing what anybody else is doing, not knowing where to go if this happens and that happens, not having sort of a good morale, and it's just go to reach targets, and that's it. And that shouldn't be what a job is all about. And then so they came back by saying also, they take it for granted that long hours was necessary for professional success. All right, so that that's the kind of thing, that's what we were talking about just there.
Straight away, that just sounds horrible, doesn't it?
It does when you hear it out loud like that, and that's what most
Yeah.
people are in the middle of.
Yeah.
So what Harvard did is they came up with 5 very straightforward steps to help figure out this whole work-life balance thing. So I'm going to talk you through the 5 steps now, and see what you think. So
Okay, go for it.
So the first step is to stop and think. All right, so you're thinking of this hamster wheel, just stop. Just stop and think, because you can't do anything unless you do this. Okay? So really take a step back. Ask yourself, what is currently causing me the stress, right? So as you said, Oksana, is it dissatisfaction with the actual job you're doing? Is it you're very unhappy and the role, in general with other departments, or is it the people? Is it the people that you're not happy with, and things like that? So really sit down and ask yourself what, just really take a step back and ask yourself these questions. Then ask yourself, how are these problems affecting how you perform? Okay.
Yeah.
Because they can affect how you perform, at all different levels. I mean, the happier you are at work, the better you're going to perform, right? If you're dissatisfied at a lot of things, you're not going to be performing at your best, because even your sleep is going to be affected. You're not going to be sleeping as well. You're not going to be as repaired. So, everything's going to be affected. And then ask yourself, how's everything affecting your personal life? What are you prioritizing? And I know, oh my God, Oksana, like I know so many people who were working like this, on the hamster wheel, go, and they thought it was normal. The exhaustion, the mental fatigue, even weekends lost.
Yeah.
Either through work or tiredness. Because I know myself, there was one stage in my life where I worked that hard and I was very, very busy. I didn't have any work-life balance, that I really burnt out. Like, I got to the stage where I just couldn't do anything. I had to rest. But leading up to that, I remember clearly that every weekend I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And the whole weekend I would spend in bed, nearly. I mean, what kind of a life is that?
No, it's hard, and that's what kind of drove me to leave my old place of work where I used to work. I'm not embarrassed to say that it got so bad to the point where I was in the doctor's getting a prescription for Xanax. It's not something to like glamorize or anything like that, but that's how bad it can get, and that isn't even bad. Like, people have much worse situations than I had. So
Yeah. But I mean, sorry that you had to go through that, Oksana. It's
look, it is what it is. I learned it was because, you see, the other point I wanted to make is I was young at that stage. I was 24, I think, and it was like my first kind of big company that I worked for. So it was like, we talked about the whole, like, the working the long hours and climbing the ladder and that kind of thing was very, very glamorized there. And I myself, leaving college, it was like that I wanted to kind of prove myself and go higher and higher and higher up the steps in the company. So I kind of pushed myself to do it. But seeing how other people worked around me, I didn't see that there was any other way to do it. So I just thought, this is normal. This is what you do. And by the end of it, I was like, you know what? No, like, if I have to take like pills basically for this to like calm myself down, absolutely not. No. So I left.
Yeah. And when you get to that, and you did the right thing, Oksana. When you do get to that stage and when you find that you have to go, you're now finding yourself going to the doctor because you sounded very, very stressed, very, very anxious. Everything
At the time, but it's just, and I tell people the story because I want them to learn from my mistakes,
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done. Like, I think people only learn when they experience it themselves.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And it's only if you kind of step back and stop and think, Oksana, isn't it? that you realize, no, this isn't for me. I have to stop this. It's not good for my mental health. It's not good for my overall personal life either, because so you're taking loads home with you, and it's affecting your family as well.
Yeah, it's all you talk about. Well, for me anyway, that's what I can only talk from my experience. That's what happened. I'd come home and I'd vent, and it would things would kind of play on my mind. And after I left, my partner would be like, "You're a different person. Like, you're the person I met in college, not who like work made you to be." So
yeah.
No, look, it's not the job's fault completely. It's also a bit of my fault that I kind of had to. I should, like, in hindsight, I should have not let myself get to that place. But look, again, easier said than done.
Oh no, we should never. I should have done this and I should have done that. It's all learning, Oksana.
Well, that's
and
it.
At least now, if you're in the same situation, you would know what to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully with this podcast, it might help a few people that might be in a similar situation. Will go, oh gosh, she was in a similar situation, so maybe this is what I should be doing as well.
Yeah, just think, like, is the job really worth it?
Yeah.
Because for me, I used to work in childcare and it just wasn't worth it. I was like, no, just absolutely not. So I left.
Yeah, just wasn't for you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. And so that's the first step. So just stop and really think about things. What's causing you the dissatisfaction? How is it affecting your work? And how is it affecting, to me, more importantly, how is it affecting your personal life, your family, and everything that's, your health and everything that's involved there? And step 2, so pay attention to your emotions, right? So you've thought about, so you've stopped and thought, what why am I being affected like this? Now pay attention to your emotions, okay? So you ask yourself, so do you feel excited, or do you feel full of energy? Do you feel motivated at work most of the time? You know what I mean? Do you feel happy?
Yeah.
Do you feel sort of excited to start new projects? Looking forward to, talking to your colleagues, attending meetings and finding out a bit more about things? Or do you feel angry? If you're feeling angry and snappy, well, that's the stage there where it's actually built up a lot. And now you're starting to snap and you're starting to take it out on other people. That means you're not happy at work, demotivated, resentful. You start resenting people as well, don't you, Oksana?
Yeah.
You start looking around and going, oh, well, he's not helpful and she's not helpful. And, it starts getting out of hand, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So that's a whole almost like washing machine load of negative emotions going on there, So if you feel negatively most of the time, then there's definitely something wrong. We have to think of our emotions as our friends as well. Oksana, they're trying to tell us something. If you're anxious, if you're depressed, if you're worrying, all those emotions is your mind's way of trying to tell you something. All right. And as well, you get a lot of emotional needs met at work as well. Okay, so one of our emotional needs is this need for competency, a need to be good at something. So if you're in a job and you're very happy doing something, and you're being told that you're actually doing well at something, doing well at a particular skill, and having a goal as to where to work towards as well, having that opportunity to discuss with your boss what you want to do and how you want to do it, and your boss being supportive and all of that, and that's gonna bode well, and your overall happipiness at a job. Another emotional need is, I spoke about them before, I suppose, your need for security and control. So if you're on top of things at work, you can control this, you've got this, you have a certain level of control to do your job as well, that you're not being micromanaged. I feel a lot of people who are, this is from feedback from a lot of people I talk to, if they feel like they're sort of being micromanaged, that every single thing is being watched and very sort of and what's the right word, watched in detail, I suppose.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. They kind of feel like they're not being trusted really to get on with their job.
Yeah,
And
it's micromanagement.
yeah, micromanagement. So it's not
Yeah.
that's not a great thing. But if you don't have that, if you have that control, if you have, you know, that security there of being respected, and valued
Trust is
and
a big
everything.
one.
Trust, yeah, and yeah, that comes under the control part. If you're trusted
Yeah.
to do your job, that's telling you that you're actually good at it, because you
Yeah,
don't have to be
exactly.
checked the whole time, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Like you don't need to be praised all the time. Be an adult, you know, like don't
yeah,
get me wrong, it's nice to hear the compliments and that kind of thing, but you don't need to hear it every day. Like that's a very
oh
like
yeah,
childlike thing nearly. But like you said, see it in other ways. If you're just left to get on with it, you're good.
you're
And
good.
that
Yeah, yeah.
leave it be. That's a good thing. So just keep to yourself and do what you do.
Do what you do, and then yeah, I mean, but having so yeah. So like what I was saying before about being told that you're good at something, it doesn't have to be like if you email your boss and say, you know, I got this done, here's the report, a quick email saying, well done, this report is excellent, well done, thanks very much, I look forward to the next one. Something
Mm.
as simple as that. Like you don't have to be brought into the office, or you don't have to have
Well,
meetings
yeah, exactly.
and
You don't
things.
need
Just,
to like have your star chart on the wall.
yeah, yeah,
Just,
yeah.
oh, thanks, that's great. Off
That's
to the
it. And
next one. Yeah, like
just yeah. So just simple wee things like that can make the world of difference to an employee. A huge, a mountain of difference, you know.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then of course, you know, if you've got this equilibrium and all, you know, everybody working well together, everybody working as a team with that shared vision, and the teamwork is good, you know, you've got that respect, you've got attention exchange. Do you know what I mean? You're working well with all the different teams, you've got that community going on. You're gonna have a lot of your emotional needs met at work,
Mhm.
you know, which is gonna make you a much happier person, which equals way better work-life balance, you know. Um, so that's so step two was to pay attention to your emotions and what they're trying to tell you. All right. And then step three is to reprioritize. So have a think about what you're prioritizing at the moment. What are you thinking most about? Um, if you're prioritizing work over your personal life or family life, this really needs to stop. Okay. Um, a good way, especially what I would ask a client now, is something like, if you continue on working, like this and being very, very busy, how do you think you feel, when you reach retirement age? And I often, what I get back is, they suddenly feel very down, and they can't explain, why they're feeling down until, there's a deep regret for not taking, talking to their boss sooner and coming up with a better way of working or seeking a job elsewhere, because there was so much time lost with family. So
Yeah.
I get that, a lot with clients. They reach retirement age or whatever age it may be. They're exhausted, they're feeling very down, and they don't know why. It's because, they're emotionally, everything's unbalanced. They're unhappy at their job and they're working all these hours into the evening times at weekends, and they don't really see their families. They don't know their children as well as they should. The relationship with their partner has kind of, they're not as close anymore because that connection, the attention, everything's been affected by work.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you can start to look at your priorities, have a think about what you're prioritizing. If you're prioritizing work, if you're thinking most of the time about work, it's time to stop and really think about it, and think about how you're gonna, reprioritize everything, because you really don't want to reach, a certain situation where you kind of look back and go, oh my goodness, what was my life about then, it would be, there would be a terrible, very sad feeling, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't get me, you can still enjoy work, and I keep saying this, but it doesn't have to take up your whole life.
Yeah, exactly. Like your personality is not your job.
Yes, that's it. This, you're so many more things, other things, rather than just a job, And then step 4 then is you start thinking about your solutions, right? So you think about, what are you going to do here? So step 4 is really think about, how much time do you want to spend with your family? You know, how much time do you want to spend with hobbies, looking after yourself? And then how much time do you need for reflection? Because do you remember I said at the start, everybody needs a bit of privacy?
Yes.
Your brain can't work at optimum level if you're not taking time out. Your brain, so the way the brain works is you're really only supposed to work for an hour and a half, okay? And then you take a break then. Privacy, time to reflect, relax for at least 15 minutes before you start working back again for another hour and a half, and then you take your next break. If you start going over that hour and a half working, you're going to be putting your brain under tremendous stress, you know, and you know, you're not going to be working at optimum level. If you take your breaks like that, you're going to be working a lot better. You're going to have more energy. That time for privacy, time for reflection is extremely important in everybody's lives. And whatever way you like to do that, it's up to you. You know, everybody has their own way of doing it. Whereas just, you know, sitting, maybe going for a walk, sitting down, I like finding a nice quiet corner in the house and just sitting and relaxing, looking out the window, listening to the birds singing and things like that. I find very relaxing as well outside. But people have their own way of doing it, but you need to be taking these breaks. You need to be having privacy and, you know, time for reflection for your overall, you know, mental health. And yeah, so think about how much time you need for this. So, you know, and these kind of questions, all of these steps, Oksana, takes time. You know, you won't get a magical solution straight away, you know, and it won't get sorted in a week, a day, you know. So have a very clear expectation here when you're going through all the steps, that this is going to take time to plan. But I know loads of people that have come out the other end from having gone through, you know, breaking point and burnout and everything. Like, I know loads of people that have come through, you know, out the other end much happier when they reprioritize, have a look at their priorities, how to think about their whole life, not just work, and prioritize themselves, having a bit of me time and things like that, you know. But this all takes time, you know, so have very clear expectations.
Yeah. I think it's also better. I think I was one of the lucky ones that, like, you kind of figure this out sooner rather than later when you first start working. Unfortunately, there's some people out there who only figure this out into their 50s, maybe into their 40s, you know, like a little bit later in life when they're working.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a lot of time. Like, what the average person probably starts working in like early 20s, would you say, teenage years, and then all that time into your 40s, 50s to just not be happy in what you do.
Oh yeah, and that's what I was saying. You know, when I you know, there's a few clients that I talk to that have said that, you know, and they do reach a bit point later on in life that they go, what was that all about? My goodness, you know, because you only have one life, and if it's all dedicated to work, well then, you know, it's you know, it can be very hard on somebody to realize that. But you know, it's never too late, and I keep saying it's never too late, as long as you do realize it and you do start asking yourself these questions and you do start putting a wee plan in place for yourself, you know, to change things. Right, even the simplest thing, like a good thing. I'm going to get into some sort of action, you know, solutions now in a minute. But one thing that I find really helpful is, say whenever you finish work, have something that symbolizes finishing work, okay? So say you finish work at 5 o'clock and you have something recorded from the night before, right? Finish work, close the laptop, go and watch your program, right? And that symbolizes, okay, I'm watching this program, I'm finished work completely, you know? It may be you have to go and collect your child from creche. Okay, I'm going to collect my child from creche, I'm finished work, done. You know, if you're driving back from the office, if you're a healthcare worker or whatever it may be, choose something, a sign on the road, or you know, something along the road that you look at, like that's that sign, that means that work is finished, you know. And then that gives a good concrete indication to your brain, triggering a response that, okay, work is done and you can get on with your day. And I find that helps a lot of people as well. Yeah, so look at, think about how much time you want to spend with family, hobbies and everything like that. Sit down and really think what you do every day, even at weekends, and is there a real need to spend all that time going into the shop, doing your weekly shop? Although most people are finding that great now because it's getting them out of the house, during a pandemic when they have to stay in, so that's absolutely fine. But if you're trying to cut down on time, whenever things get back to normal again, you can order home delivery, and oh my goodness, we do that. And the time that it's given us back, Oksana, like we've been getting home delivery now for a couple of years, and that's just brilliant.
Same. I do it now because I want to get out of the house, like you said. But yeah, when everything was, quote unquote normal, because I don't consider it normal, but when it was like that, yeah, it was the same. Because you'd spend the guts of 3 hours from going to the shop, piling up your trolley, to then put on the conveyor belt, to then pile up your trolley again to come home to unpack everything. That could take about 3 hours.
It's a whole hassle to me anyway. It's just a whole hassle. Yeah. There's all these different steps, as you said. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, my mom calls them. Maybe it's not really nice, but my mom calls them monkey work. She's like, I'm so stupid. Why do I do this? I go into the shop to pile up a trolley, to unpack it, to then pack it again, to then unpack it into your car, to then put it into the house, to unpack it again, and it's a whole thing. Like.
Oh, geez, that's my goodness, that's a whole waste of time. So listen, get the delivery sorted. You just take back so many hours. It's about really having a good think about what you want to do with your time. Is what you're doing all necessary? Think about alternatives and more useful ways, to spend your time to help with your work-life balance. So now I'll move on to step 5, which is, to take action. So once you've thought about your priorities and some of the options which might help you with this, it's time to take action. So some of the solutions would be, I'll make a few suggestions. So if you're not happy in your job, if it's the role itself, have a talk maybe with your manager and ask them, is it possible to take on a new role which is less demanding? All right. Mm-hmm. So that might be an option for somebody. Change your work patterns as well. Tell him, talk about your concerns. Just, say that you have so much on your plate that your work patterns are you're getting up early. You're working into the evening times. You have to do some work at weekends. Work with your boss. Make suggestions on how to actually overcome these. Ask for help. If you're not able to get all of this done yourself, all of the projects, anything that you have, ask for help, and talk through with your boss of alternative suggestions there. Okay, don't let everything build up, because normally when you do talk to your boss, if they are understanding, they usually will come up with something alternative for you that will help. And look, leave work on time, right? No working in the evening times when, and I know like sometimes it is necessary, but most of the time just leave work on time and no working in the evening times. Make a reason to leave in the evening as well. All right, okay, so I'm stopping work at 5. At 5:30 I have a class, so I have to stop. 5:30 I have exercise. I have some exercises to do. I have yoga. And, if you're working at home, you can find loads of this stuff online. So have a reason to stop at that time as well. I find that helps a lot of people. And what I said before, do something that symbolizes stopping work. Like watching that program or going out for a walk or going for a drive or whatever it may be. Ask for more flexible hours, whatever you can come up with there. avoid talking about work at home as well. You know, when you finish at 5 o'clock or whatever time it may be, stop talking about it as well. You know, have that time in the evening. Just say to yourself, right, that's it, I'm stopped. I'm not going to talk. And if there's something really worrying you, obviously you have to talk. But if it's just a general day at work, just leave your work there and just get on with whatever you're doing in the evening. Dedicate that time to you and your family, your partner, your dogs, Oxana, whatever it may be.
Yes.
And then, 76% of organisations provide well-being supports in Ireland. 76%, right? And not enough people take advantage of that. So take advantage of the well-being and support departments you have at your work. Go online now. Go and see what they provide. Ask your manager, ask whoever it is, go into that department, see what's available and take advantage of that. Geez, they have so many things. They have different classes that can help you. They have different people, giving different talks about mental health issues. Some companies have, breakout rooms where you can go and relax. They have relaxing rooms. There's so many counselling available. There's so many things that you can take advantage of there that will definitely help your mental health in some way. If you do some of it. So please look into that now if you haven't before. And another big thing as well that people do whenever they stop work is they start going on their phone, or they bring out the laptop, another laptop maybe they have for personal use, or they take another screen, right? So what I would advise for a work-life balance is to have a digital detox, right? So once you finish work, it's okay, have your dedicated time, right? I'm going to have a half an hour in the evening to scroll and have a look at my Instagram or whatever it may be. That's absolutely fine, or just to pass the time, and it might take your mind off things, but don't just pick up a screen and have it on the whole time, because that's very distracting, isn't it? You're going to be focusing on that the whole time, and then you might have you might click on your work emails because it's very handy, it's on the phone, or you might just click that notification and you might click this, so you're kind of in and you're looking again and you're distracted, you're getting into work again. So we want to avoid all that. So have a routine when you're going to be online, when you're going to be offline. If you're going out for a walk, if you're leaving the house for whatever reason, leave your phone at home when you can, unless there's you really have to have your phone with you. Leave your phone at home when you can. Turn off the phone. Have it out of sight. Don't have it visible to you at all times. Just hide it so that it's not there. I find that works. If it's out of sight, I'm not going to be tempted. And then another piece of research I was reading recently was the people that watch a lot of news and people that click into these depressing headings, their well-being is much worse than somebody that doesn't watch a lot of news and doesn't click into these headings, guys. Because what happens is whenever you're watching the news and whenever you're clicking into these headings, they're almost all not from a reliable source, by the way. These headings are put up there to scare you so that you do click into them. And then that whatever company that is getting lots of, clicks, which is doing very well for them. So just understand the psychology behind it. Get a reliable source. If you look at this scary heading, just say to yourself, they're just trying to scare me now to click into this. How many headings have you clicked into and read that have actually been 100% true?
Yeah, that's it.
When you think about it, so really so try not to click into these headings, these scary headings, and because you're going to be just you're going to feel like you're under threat the whole time. That part of your brain's going to take over, and you're not going to be thinking rationally and things like that. So it has a huge effect on your brain, and your well-being. So try not to do that. Definitely turn off notifications on your phone. Again, unless it's absolutely necessary, turn them off. so that you're not getting these beeps and beeps and beeps and having to check your phone all the time. And then another sort of good thing that I do is a lot of people use their alarm clock on their phone. A good idea is to buy a separate alarm clock so that you're not reaching for your phone first thing in the morning, okay, when the alarm goes off. It's a very clever way, I suppose. Whoever was making these phones in the first place, actually, we'll put an alarm clock in here. It'll be very handy. They'll check the phone straight away. So buy a separate alarm clock and have it there instead of reaching for the phone first thing in the morning. And you're getting back even more time. So that's the digital detox then once you do finish work. Have your dedicated times and work off those other points as well. And then I don't like the and what puts a lot of pressure on people as well is talking about goals all the time. Okay?
Yes, yeah, because everybody thinks you have to catch up on everybody else's goals. Yeah. They don't realize that everybody lives life at a different pace. So
yeah, and I think as well that if you're trying to reach a goal, right? Say if you don't reach the goal, what are you going to feel like? Failure.
Exactly, a bit of a failure, really.
Yeah. So until you reach that goal, you're going to think I'm failing and failing until I actually do reach the goal. And then once you do reach the goal, it's very short-lived, and then you have to have another goal. It's like, right, okay, and it keeps going like that. Now, it's very important to have something to work towards as a human being, because that motivates you, it gets your brain going, you feel very, very, very good for your mental health. And it's a need that we have as well to be able to work towards something,
Yeah.
But I find the word goal has it triggers a lot of negativity in people. So I would kind of look at it as something to, let's make a plan. Let's not talk about goals, right? Let's just make a plan. Look, guys, if you're working somewhere and it's all goal orientated, try maybe in your brain, if it is putting pressure on you, try look at it instead as having a plan, okay? And then maybe, that might take some pressure off. And then even in your personal life, your life balance, if you want to do something, if you want to finish that course, look at it as, something to work towards, and it being an achievement then at the end. Do you know?
Yeah.
Because I think the word goal is it's overused, and it causes a lot of pressure in people's heads. Another very important point, Oxana, I just want to go over for work-life balance is to reconnect with your partner. If you do have a partner, okay? Reconnect with the people that you care about. Now, the busyness of life can really take over, right? You're so busy doing this, that, and the other that, that special time with your partner or, whoever it may be goes to the bottom of the list, okay? Think about the first time when you met. Think about those feelings, how you felt, and think about that and think, okay, so we did have that. It's just the reason we probably don't have as much of that now is because we're so busy, because we bought a house, we did this, we did that, and all. And so just sort of accept that, right, this is what's happened, this is why we're like this. But we can actually work on that. It's just a matter of putting in a bit of effort, or just do little date nights. If you have children, put the children to bed, put on nice clothes, cook a nice meal, order in a takeaway, have a glass of wine, whatever it may be, put on a comedy, have a laugh together, do the things that you used to enjoy doing. Stop and really listen to your partner as well, focus on the things that they're doing right, because you see what's happening is in lockdown, before, if you did have a fallout with your partner or something happened, like you'd be able to get out of the house, you'd be able to go for that, meet people, talk about it, face to face, go to somebody's house, go to the gym, work it all off. But now you're stuck with all these negative thoughts in the house. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, you're in each other's pockets.
Yeah, and then you start then thinking about everything that they're doing wrong, and look at them you're doing, and it just all builds up. Okay.
Yeah, it's like, are you breathing again?
Yeah.
Exactly.
God. Stop breathing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it all starts to build up. So two very simple points, or three very simple points: put in the effort. Organize those little date nights, go out for your walks, whatever it may be. Stop and really listen to your partner, right? Now this is easier said than done. How many of us don't really listen? They're trying to tell us something that's important to them. Say, for example, they're mad into a sport and you've absolutely no interest in it, and you're like, oh, for goodness sake. But they're talking to you about it, and it's very, very important to them. And you're there going, and you're kind of, maybe you're reading a magazine and you're on your phone, or you're in the middle of, you're playing with your child, and you don't stop and listen to them. You know what I mean? So that has a big effect on your overall relationship, because to the other person then you're not really interested. You're not giving them the attention that they want. A bit of attention is really important in a relationship, and if that builds up over time, you're going to drift. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you're not going to feel as close to that person if you don't just stop and listen to what's important to them. And then a funny thing happens if you do that. Then they start listening to you more, and it kind of rolls onto that. So that's another very important point. And instead of thinking about everything that they do wrong, okay, if they do something wrong, just say, okay, that wasn't very nice, but then start thinking about everything else that they're doing right, which seems to, you just forget about that whenever you're, especially in this climate, when you're stuck inside and you can't get away from the situation. All the negativity is magnified, isn't it? But instead of doing that, just think of everything that they're actually doing right. He didn't bloody well do the dishes, but he's done all their housework. He's dropped the children to creche. He organizes the shopping. He does this. He does that. Or she, or whoever it may be. So just think of all of the other things that your partner does right. So 3 simple steps there to really reconnect with your partner. And yourself, if everything's going well at home, you can imagine everything going really well at home, everything going really well at work. Your work-life balance is going to be great, isn't it?
You would
it's going to be a lot more easier anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, just, oh yes, one of the points I forgot to say was, when you're at work, figure out the best time that you work. Figure out the time that you work best. Is it morning or is it the afternoon? With myself, I know it's the morning times. So if I've got any tutoring to do, if I've got any meetings and things like that, I like to get that done in the morning when I'm sort of, fresher. And everything. The afternoon I tend to get very tired,
Yeah, same. I get my go-go juice into me in the morning, which is coffee, and then I blast through everything until about kind of lunchtime, and maybe the first hour of lunchtime, or after lunchtime rather. And then after that I kind of leave the small things that don't need a lot of concentration for. So like, I don't know, if there's emails I need to answer, you don't really need to think much about them. Sometimes it's just a quick one, the small things that just need tidying up, and then that's it, I'm done.
Yeah, that's it, and that works for you.
Yeah.
And that's actually very similar to myself as well, Oxana. And you might have somebody that works really well. It takes them ages to come around in the morning. Schedule your meetings and everything in the afternoon. You see the importance of planning. It's it's all about sitting back, thinking about things and planning the right way. Don't forget about your me time, as we discussed. Meditate. Watch a silly movie, watch stand-up comedies as well, comedians. I think that's great. You're guaranteed laugh. Don't forget about your social life as well. Keep social, keep in contact with your friends. I know at the moment restrictions are being lifted gradually. So, all we can do at the minute really is, pick up the phone, have your Zoom calls, whatever it may be, but just make sure and do that. Whatever you can do at the minute to keep social, do it. And one of the last things I just wanted to mention, specifically for parents having a work-life balance, as a mammy, as any parent, I found it difficult myself after having my wee boy, going back to work. After that, because coming from looking after your child 24 hours a day, to then not being with them for a big chunk of a few days was pretty difficult.
Yeah, and it's also trusting your newborn with with essentially a stranger if you're going to put them into childcare.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So yeah, so you said it. So one of the key things is to find a creche, child facility that you can really trust, and you ask around. Word of mouth is way better than going online. You know, they're only going to put the good testimonials online. Much better to ask around, and word of mouth about creches. And get feedback on that, and make sure that you're happy with the creche that you're sending them to. I was very lucky. I was able to go back part-time, which worked out great for me. Some people just don't have that option, and they both parents have to be working because of whatever they need. So sometimes that isn't an option. So then your mom guilt starts to build up. Mommy guilt. Oh God, I shouldn't be away from my child so long, and things like that. And that starts to build up. So first things first is get rid of that mommy's guilt, right? You should be admired, really, not judged or shamed for going back to work. Mommies, daddies, or whatever, and all of the employers that you work for, I mean, over half, if not all of them, have our parents, or have children or something, and in some way. So it's you shouldn't feel guilty at all, and you shouldn't feel shamed for going back to work or any of that. So get rid of that mom guilt, and focus on the positives of you working. Focus on the positives. Your work is actually given to your family as well. Be confident in your decision, and always have somebody there to talk to as well. Have your support around you. If you are having an off day, that you can call another mommy maybe, or maybe somebody at work that you can chat to about the guilt that you're feeling, and maybe the tiredness that you're feeling, and things like that. And have your open communication with your boss as well. Do that online shopping, save your time. What I find really helps is, in the office, particularly when I'm in the office, is grabbing bits and pieces that I need for the house during the lunch break. And it's great too to get out of the office, get away for your lunch break, go to Dunn's, go to whatever shop, grab your bits and pieces, and then that saves you time in the evening. Prepare your work clothes, whatever it is you need for the next day, the night before, your clothes and your lunches and things like that for you and your child. So the last point I want to say, Oxana, is enjoy your work. You know what I mean? It's your time to refocus. This is, as a parent, and mommy guilt and everything. Try to enjoy your work. It is your time to refocus. From coming from everything about children, you're actually going to work. You're refocusing on something else. You're getting the brain going. You're developing. You're talking to other people. You're talking to adults as well, which I find is great when you're always around children. And just enjoy your work as much as you can, and the happier you are, the happier your children will be as well, when you think of it that way, and the better work-life balance you're going to have. So listen, I hope that, somebody takes something, even just one point from our discussion today, that really helps them with their work-life balance. And, there's huge hope out there that you can get from being very unhappy and feeling of having no balance in your life to having complete control and balance back in your life, if you just take some small steps.
And that was Mary on work-life balance. We hope you can take something away from this and get a good yin-yang situation going. As always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and you can subscribe to us on all the usual podcast apps that you listen to. Thanks again, you guys. Goodbye for now.